Chapter 26 of Jin Ping Mei Embroidery Portrait Chongzhen Edition. When Wenger was deported to Suzhou, Song Huilian was shy and kept herself a secret. The poem says, "Wu and you are separated from each other, and the jade pillow has been separated for many years. I climbed up to the north and looked at the deep misty rain. I turned around and cried towards the moon in the sky. Again, Latit, night, I went to the Jimin gate in boredom, but walked around the corridor and slept alone again. There are only empty memories in the boudoir, and the soul returns to the desert and the soul returns to the spring." It is said that Simon King changed his mind again after hearing Jin Lian's words. The next day, Wenger came to pack his luggage and wait for him, but by midday there was still no movement. I saw Simon King come out and called Lai Wenger to him and said, "I wanted to come at night. You just came home from Hangzhou a short time ago, and I taught you to go to Tokyo. It's so hard. Why don't you ask Lai Bao to go for you? Let's stay at home for a few days. I'll find someone to do business with you tomorrow." Since ancient times, things have been decided by the judge. Those who came to Wenger and dared to say more had to agree. Simon King delivered the letter of silver to Supervisor Lai Bao and Wu, and on the 8th of March he left for Tokyo. Not a problem. When Wenger returned to the room, he was furious. He drank wine and poured nonsense into the room. Song Huilian came to anger and wanted to kill Simon King. Song Huilian scolded him a few words. "You bite like a dog without showing your teeth, and your words are not words. There are cracks in the wall, and there are ears in the wall. After eating that yellow soup, you can sleep well." She sent him to bed. The next day, I went to the back and invited Simon King out of the jade flute room. The two of them were talking in a quiet place under the back wall of the kitchen, and Yu Xiao was watching the wind for him at the back door. The mother-in-law complained very much and said, "Are you a human being? You originally told him to teach him to go, but why did you change the target and teach others to do it? You are a naive person, rolling up and down like a cane. You can't hold the handle at all. If you build a temple and erect a flagpole tomorrow, you will be a liar. I won't believe you anymore. After I talk to you, I won't have any affection at all." Simon King said with a smile, "That's not what I said. Didn't I also ask him to go? I'm afraid he is not familiar with Teishikai's house in Tokyo, so he went to Bao. Leave him behind and let the family find a business with him." The woman said, "You're right." I said, "What kind of business are you looking for to do with him?" Simon King said, "I'll teach him to find a manager and open a hotel in front of his house." The woman was filled with joy after hearing this, and walked into the house and said to Lai Wenger, "All right. Just wait for Simon King's instructions." One day, Simon King sat down in the front hall and called Wenger to come to him. He put 6 packages of silver on the table and said, "My child, you have been working hard in Hangzhou. I'm afraid you are not very good at Kai Mansion to teach you to go to Tokyo. I'm familiar with it, so I taught Lai Bao today. You can use these 6 bags of silver and 300 taels to hire a supervisor and open a hotel in front of your house. It's also good for you to find some interest every month and be filial to me." Na Lai Wang hurriedly lay down on the ground. He kowtowed and received 6 packages of silver. When he returned to his room, he told his wife, "He used business to enslave me. Today he gave me 300 taels of silver and taught me how to work as a supervisor and open a hotel to do business." The wife said, "A strange thief and a criminal." You were still angry at your wife and said, "Did you dig a well with just 1 shovel? You should take your time. How come you are doing business today? You keep to yourself. Don't drink anymore. Talk nonsense." Lai Wenger asked his wife to give the silver coins, put it in the box. "I'm looking for a clerk on the street." So he went to the street to look for the supervisor. It was late at night, but the supervisor couldn't do it either, so he came home drunk. After his wife sent him to sleep, Yu Xiao came and called him to the back. Lai Wenger slept for a while, and at about the first watch of the weather, he was still awake from the wine and was half asleep. Suddenly, he heard someone calling him faintly outside the window. "Brother Lai Wang, if you don't get up and take a look, your wife is here again. I was seduced by that shameless person to go to the back of the garden to do that business. Thank you for sleeping so peacefully." Lai Wenger suddenly woke up. He opened his eyes and saw that his wife was not in the room. He only thought it was Zui who saw something moving. After passing the letter to him, he suddenly became angry and said, "I'm making trouble in front of you." He jumped up quickly, opened the door, and rushed into the garden. As soon as he arrived at the door in the middle corner of the wing, a stool was unexpectedly thrown out of the darkness, tripping Lai Wanger. There was a loud sound and a knife fell to the ground. 4 or 5 boys flashed past, shouting, "There is a thief." They all moved forward and caught Lai Wanger. Lai Wanger said, "I am Lai Wanger. I came here to look for a wife. How did you catch me?" Everyone couldn't help but beat him to the hall with a stick step by step. I saw the lights in the hall were bright, and Simon King was sitting on it. And he shouted, "Bring it up." Lai Wanger knelt on the ground and said, "I woke up from my sleep, but I didn't see my wife in the room, so I came in to look for him." "What? Take the little one as a thief." Then Lai Xinger put the knife in front of him and looked at it with Simon King. Simon King was furious and cursed. "It's so difficult for all living beings to save others. This guy is really a murderer. I saw you come to my house in Hangzhou and asked you to take 300 taels of silver to do business. How could you come in at night and try to kill me? Otherwise, what are you doing with this knife?" He ordered the people around him, "Take him to his room with me and get my 300 taels of silver." The boys immediately escorted him to the room. Huilian was talking to Yu Xiao behind, and when she heard the letter, she hurriedly ran to the room. When he saw it, he burst into tears and said, "After you have a good meal and wine, what are you doing here to find me again? It's just a conspiracy." He opened the box and took out 6 packages of silver. "Take it to the hall." Simon King opened it under the lamp and looked at it. There was a bag of silver inside, and the rest were tin and lead ingots. Simon King was furious because he asked, "How can I exchange it? Where did my silver go? Tell me the truth as soon as possible." Then Lai Wanger cried and said, "Father promotes a young man to do business. How dare he deceive his heart and exchange for silver?" Simon King said, "You took down the knife, and you still want to kill me. Now, what is the knife saying?" Yin called Lai Xinger, knelt down in front of him, and said, "You have not been outside since a certain day. Are you saying that you want to kill your father? Are you angry that he won't do business with you?" Wanger just sighed and opened his mouth but couldn't close his mouth. Simon King said, "Now that the stolen goods have been proved, the sword and the staff are clear, I asked the boy to lock him in the gatehouse with me. Tomorrow I will write a complaint and send it to the execution place." I saw Song Huilian, her servant girl messy and her clothes untidy, coming to the hall. He knelt down to Simon King and said, "Dad, this is what you do for a living. He came in looking for me so well. How could I treat him as a thief? I kept your 6 bags of silver intact. How can I keep them for nothing? In exchange, you have to bury a person alive for justice. Why is he? Why are you just because of him? Beat him up. Now take him and send him to where?" When Simon King saw him, he replied angrily and said happily, "Daughter-in-law, what does it have to do with you? Get up. He has been rude and bold for a long time. He has a knife hidden and wants to kill me. You don't know. You can rest assured that it is none of your business." Yin ordered Lianer, "I can help you. Sister-in-law, please go back to your room. Don't scare him." Huilian just knelt and couldn't get up, and said, "Father is so cruel. You don't look at the monk's face or the Buddha's face. I'm saying this, but you're not obedient." Although he saw there's nothing wrong with eating wine, Simon King was so worried that he taught Anner to get up and persuaded him to go back to his room. At dawn, Simon King wrote a letter and asked Lai Xinger to testify. With the warrant in hand, he escorted Lai Wanger to Tixingyuan, saying that one day he was drunk and killed the owner of the family with a knife in the night and exchanged it for silver. Affection. Just as they were about to go out, Wu Yunyang walked to the front hall and tried to persuade Simon King again and again, saying, "This slave is rude, so I'll just punish him at home. Why do you want to drag him out again and alarm the government?" Simon King heard this, widened her eyes, and shouted, "You wife, you don't know the truth. I want to kill me, but you should spare him." So he didn't listen to Yunyang's words, and ordered everyone to escort Lai Wanger to the execution court. Yunyang immediately retreated in shame. returned to the back, and said to everyone in the Jade Tower, "Now the chaos in this house is king, and the nine-tailed vixen is born. I don't know who listened to someone's words and got the little boy out for nothing. You just rely on him to do it. Thief, everything must be solid. What sense does it make to stick a person in a paper coffin? It makes no sense to fool the emperor and sell his goods." Song Huilian knelt down and cried in front of him. Yunyang said, "My dear, please get up. Don't cry, you man will never ask him for his death penalty. He is a thief. He has eaten the ecstasy soup. We are not listening to what we said. My wife is in the army. Just for fun," Yulu said to him. Huilian said, "Your father is very angry. I will try to persuade him later. You can go back to your room in peace. Don't mention it here." Shan Bao came to Wanger and was taken to Tixing Yuan. Ximon King first sent Dian to send 100 stones of white rice to Jia Tixing and congratulate Qianhu. The two received the gifts and then sat in the hall. Lai Xing'er handed over the petition and read it. It was known that Lai Wanger had received money to do business, and when he saw the money, he exchanged the money for silver. Fearing that the family owner would investigate, he broke into the back hall with a knife at night and murdered the family owner. He was furious and called Lai Wang to kneel down in the hall. At this time, Wanger complained, "I hope the heavenly official will check the situation. If you let the little one speak, the little one will say it. If you don't let the little one speak, the little one won't dare to say it. Prove it clearly, don't speculate, tell me the truth, and I won't be punished." Lai Wanger learned that Simon Qingchu ordered someone to wear a blue satin. And how did he molest his daughter-in-law, the Song family, into adultery? And now he is guilty of this crime. I want to make up for the harm done to his wife. Tell me again. Jia Tixing gave a loud shout, ordered people to slap each other in the mouth, and said, "You slave deceived your master. You are the daughter-in-law of your family who is worthy of you as his wife, and you have used his capital to trade with you. You don't want to repay him." Originally, he broke into the bedroom drunkenly at night and killed him with a knife. "Everyone in the world is like you, a slave, and I don't dare to do anything to others." Lai Wanger still complained that he was wronged, but Jia Tixing called Xing'er to come over and testify. Then Lai Wanger had something to say. "Exactly, if you know how to use heaven's plan, you will inevitably avoid the current disaster." Jia Tixing immediately ordered people to pick up large sticks from the left and right, clamped Lai Wanger between them, and beat him with 20 sticks. The skin and flesh were torn and blood dripping from the beatings. Instruct the jailer to take him down and put him in prison. Lai Xing'er and Yu An'er came home and replied to Ximon King's message. Ximon King was filled with joy and ordered the servants at home, no bedding or food, is allowed to be sent in with him. But if he is beaten, don't come to your house and tell your sister-in-law that he was not beaten at all in the Yemen. He will be imprisoned for a few days. Release it. All the boys agreed. Since Song Huilian took Wanger away, she hasn't combed her hair or washed her face. She has a sallow face. She just closes the door and cries and refuses to eat or drink. Ximon King panicked and sent Yu Xiao and Ben Xinang into the room again and again to persuade him, saying, "Don't worry, my father imprisoned him for a few days because he was drinking and talking arrogantly, and if he tolerated his temper, he was released soon." Hui Lian didn't believe it, so she sent a servant to An'er to deliver food to the prison. When he came back and asked him, he also said the same thing. "When I see the official, I won't beat him even once. I will come home in a day or two to teach my sister-in-law to feel at ease at home." This Hui. After hearing this, Lian stopped crying. Every day, lightly sweep the eyebrows, apply makeup lightly, and go out for a walk. When Ximon King wanted to go back and forth, he knocked on the door of the room and left. His wife shouted from under the eaves, "There is no one in the room. Why don't you come in and sit down?" Ximon King entered the room and talked to his wife. Ximon King coaxed him and said, "My son, don't worry. I saw your face and wrote a note to the government, but I didn't even beat him. I imprisoned him for a few days, and after being patient with him, I let him out." She even asked him to do business. The woman hugged Ximon King's neck and said, "My dear Dada, look at the slave's face and let him out in 2 days. It's up to you to teach him to do business or not." whether it's business or not. Once it's over, I'll teach him to stop drinking and let him go as close or as far as you want. How dare he not go? If you don't find it uncomfortable, just find him a wife. And that's fine with him. I'm always far away. He is no longer his, Simon King said. My dear, you are right. I will buy a house in Kiao's house tomorrow, pack up 3 houses to live with you, and move to your place. And we can play freely. The woman said, come here, kiss me. It's up to you to decide. After saying that, the two closed the door. It turned out that the woman Jia Yu often didn't wear pants and only wore the skirts. When she saw Simon King there, she lifted up her skirt and started doing it. So the two of them undressed the jade of concubine Jin, lit the incense of the Han dynasty with their eyebrows together, and their ducks flew over their shoulders, and there was a cloud and rain. The woman picked up the sachet bag with silver strips of yarn, which contained pine and cypress grass, and held it with Simon King with the 4 words gel fragrance and beautiful love. I was so happy that I couldn't help but hate that I would live and die with him. So I took out 1 or 2 taels of silver from my sleeve and bought some fruits with him. He comforted him again and again. Don't worry, I'm afraid worry will ruin you. I will write a post tomorrow to tell Mr. Jia to let him out. After saying this, Simon King went out in a hurry, fearing that someone was coming. After hearing Simon King's words, this woman revealed her soft words to the maids and daughters-in-law later. Meng Yulu already knew this and turned to tell Pan Jinlian why his father was going to let Wang Er out sooner or later and replace him with someone else. Marry one. Why should he buy the house of Kiao's family across the street? Hang his daughter-in-law there, live in 3 rooms with him, buy a girl to serve him, braid his silver hair bun with him, and do her hair. He said it over and over again. Just like you and me. No Zhangzi. The eldest sister just doesn't care. Pan Jinlian just refused to listen. When she heard, he was so full of anger that he had nowhere to put it, and his cheeks became even redder. Said, it's really it to him. I don't believe it. What I tell you today. If I teach thieves and slaves to become prostitutes, and let Simon King let go of his 7th wife, I won't say it. I will turn the word Pan upside down. Yulu said, the man is not upright, and the eldest sister doesn't care. Every time we can walk or fly. What about those people? Jin Lian said, you are not handsome. What do you want with this life? Live 100 years, kill the meat and eat it. If he doesn't obey me, there is nothing wrong with risking your life in his hands. Yulu smiled and said, I am a coward. I dare not mess with him. Let's see if you have the ability to tangle with him. In the evening, Simon King was sitting in the study room of Jade Pavilion in the garden. He was about to teach Chen Jingji how to write a post, and went to Jia Tixing office to tell Wang Er to be released. Jin Lian suddenly walked up to him, leaning against the desk, and asked, what post are you teaching Brother Chen to write? Simon King couldn't hide it, because he said, I want to beat Lai Wang Er a few times and let him out. Come on. The woman stopped the boy and said, don't call brother-in-law Chen. Sitting next to her, she said, you are just trying to be a man, but you are actually a con man who follows the wind and steers the boat. You don't listen to what I say to you, but listen to that thief slave whore. You can eat sugar and honey with him every day, but he only loves his man. Now let that slave go. You don't want him as your wife anymore. It's a good excuse to teach him that he is a slave. Who do you think you are if you keep him at home? Neither meat nor vegetables. When you want to make her your little wife, I will see you again. When you want to say that I am a slave, wife, you see that he is so unassuming that he behaves badly in front of others. Even if you marry someone else for that slave, if you take his wife, if you just sit together next to each other. In the answer, the slave came up to answer, or did something, and was angry when he saw it. When my wife saw him, did she stand up? Or did she not stand up? Not first. Just this is indecent. Spread the word, don't tell jokes about neighbors and relatives. Just the size of the family. I don't care about you. It's because the upper beam is not straight, and the lower beam is crooked. Since you want to do this business, why not be ruthless and ruthless? Until the slave is finished. Then, you can hug him, his wife can rest assured as well. A few words turned Simon Qingnian upside down again, and he wrote a post to Jia T for punishment. telling Jia that the sentence should be given within 3 days, and that he would be tortured. But the torture did not look good. The 2 officials who punished him were responsible for observing, resting, and ranging the troops. All the people in the prison received Simon King's property, whether it was important or not. Among them was Mr. Konghuyan, named Yinzi, who was in charge of the case. He was a native of Shaoyi County, Shaanxi Province. He was a very kind and upright man. Seeing that Simon King wanted to frame this man and plot against his wife, he repeatedly refused to write documents and submit questions, and confronted the execution officer face to face. The 2 criminal officials used this as a constraint, and delayed his punishment for a few days. Their favor was exhausted, so they only punished him for 40 years and deported him to his native Suzhou as a citizen. When the original stolen goods were investigated, they cost 17 taels and 5 packages of lead-in tin. And Simon King's family was ordered to come to Xing'er to collect them. The messenger wrote a post and replied to Simon King. He followed the teacher and set off on the same day. Here, the execution officer held an official document in custody and sent him in to take out Lai Wenger. He had beaten it to pieces, nailed it, and put it back on the cover. He was told to set off on the same day and go directly to Suzhou for delivery. Poor Lai Wenger, he has been in prison for half a month, has no money to use, is in a miserable state, wears blue clothes, and has nowhere to go. He begged the 2 gentlemen and said, "Brothers above, I have been involved in a lawsuit and I have no money. I need to collect some travel money to share with you. I hope you will take pity on me and escort me to my master. I have my money." My daughter-in-law and her clothes and trunks were begged and sold, and I thanked both of you. I also paid for the travel expenses and got some relief. The 2 gentlemen said, "You are so unreasonable. Your master has orchestrated this, and he also are you willing to send your daughter-in-law in a cage to you? Do you still have any relatives? For Master Yin's sake, we will hide it from you. We will take you there and beg for some money and rice at will, which will be enough for you to spend money on the road. Who expects you to do anything? Money for your steps," Lai Wang said. "Brothers, you just have to lead me to the front door of my house first. I asked 2 or 3 relatives and neighbors to beg me for a son with kind words, no more or no less." To the man said, "Forget it. We will take you there." Wang arrived first to greet the count, but the count was not at home. He also asked his left neighbors Jia Rensing and Yi Mianchi to come to Simon King's house to ask for a wife's cage on behalf of Lai Wenger. Simon King didn't come out either, so he sent out 5 or 6 boys to beat him with sticks and stopped him from harassing him at the door. It would really embarrass Jia and Yi. His daughter-in-law, Song Huilian, hid a similar iron bucket in the house and didn't know a word about it. Simon King ordered, "That boy leaked the news and I will give him 20 blows." The 2 men went to the house of his father-in-law, Song Ren, who sold coffins. Lai Wenger cried out to Song Ren and sent him away. 1 tael of silver, a sling of copper coins, and a dew of rice with 2 gentlemen, and they were entangled on the road. Weeping and crying, I left King County in early April and came to Suzhou Avenue. Exactly, if Gu Kuankai lives his life, he will live his whole life hungry. Not to mention that Lai Wenger was deported to Suzhou. Let's say that Song Huilian was at home and she only wanted him to come out every day. The boy brought him food like a boy, and when he got outside, everyone ate. Huilian came back and asked him, and only said, "Brother has eaten, and there is nothing wrong in the prison." If he had not been released, the punishment master did not come to the Yamen for several days to ask questions, and he only came home on 1 or 2 days. Simon King coaxed him again and said, "I sent someone to say that they will be out soon." The woman thought it was true. One day, there was a rumor in the wind, and someone said that Lai Wenger was escorted out, asking for a suitcase at the door, and somehow disappeared. The woman asked the servants several times, but they didn't say anything. Suddenly, he saw Yuan following Simon King's melee home. He stopped him and asked him, "How is your brother Wang in prison? When will he be released?" Yuan said, "Sister-in-law, let me tell you, my brother will be here sooner or later. Lucia River." Huilian asked the reason. and found that Yuan was completely incompatible with each other. Like this. I beat him 40 times and deported him to his family in Suzhou. Just keep it in your mind. I'll tell you no more. The woman refused to listen and everything was over. After hearing this, she closed the room and cried loudly. My dear, what did you do in his house? Someone plotted against you with a paper coffin. I have been a slave for a long time, but I haven't earned any good clothes in the house. Today I just want to keep you away from home. It's so hard to trap you as a slave. You don't know whether you will live or die on the road. I'm like you are under a vat. Normally. How do you know? After crying for a while, he took a long handkerchief and tied it to the hinge of the bedroom door, hanging it from the beam and hang himself. I didn't want to come to Zhao's wife, whose house was connected to his house. Later I heard him crying once in the house, but there was no sound. For a long time, I could only hear the sound of breathing. When he knocked on the door, he didn't answer. He panicked and taught the boy Ping An'er to pry open the window and get in. He saw that the woman was wearing her own clothes and hanging on the door hinge. While he was freed, he closed the door and drank some ginger soup. After a while, the shouting came to light. Wu Yunyang led Li Jier, Meng Yulu, Sister Ximen, Li Ping'er, Yu Xiao, and Xiao Yu to come and have a look. Lady Baici also came to have a look. Yi Jiangking helped him sit on the ground, choking and unable to cry in vain. Yunyang called him, but she just lowered her head, spitted, and refused to answer. Yunyang said, "It turns out you are a silly boy. You can just say what you want to say. How can we find this way?" She also asked Yu Xiao to support him and called out personally, "Huilian child, what are you thinking about? It won't matter if you just scream a few times." After asking for a long time, the woman choked up, clapped her hands, and cried loudly. Yunyang asked Yu Xiao to help him get on the kang, but he refused to get on the kang. Yunyang and others persuaded her for a long time and then went back to the back. Only sister-in-law Ben and Yu Xiao were in the house. I saw Simon King lift the curtain and come in. He saw him sitting on the cold ground crying, and ordered Yu Xiao, "You cut the cut and get him up on the kang." Yu Xiao said, "My mother taught him to get up just now, but he refused to go." Simon King said, "Chengdo, what a strong boy, I'm keeping you cold. If you have something to say to me, why are you so stupid?" Huilian shook her head and said, "Dad, you are a good man. You did a good job without telling me. You are saying that children are not children. It turns out that you are a tricking executioner, used to burying people alive, and even killing people. You can still see the funeral. You have only coaxed me all day long, and you said to release me today, and you will release me tomorrow. Only come out when it's good. If you deport him, just say something to me, and then he will be deported far away in a dark and unventilated place. You must also follow the laws of heaven. Just believe in people who do such a trick to wipe out the family. You've made a good trap, and you're still hiding it from me. Just send them away. You've sent them both away. So what can I do if you leave me alone?" Simon King said with a smile, "My child, it's none of your business. The relationship is broken. I have something to do, so I send him away. Don't worry, I have a place of my own." Yin ordered Yu Xiao, "You and Mrs. Bai will stay with him all night, and I will send a servant to bring you wine to eat." After saying that, he went out. Sister-in-law Ben helped him sit on the kang for a long time and talked to Yu Xiao to persuade him. Simon King went to the shop in front and asked the waiter. He paid a small amount of money and bought a small amount of cakes. He took a box to put it in and a bottle of wine. He sent Li An'er to Huilian's house and said, "Dad, let me give this to my sister-in-law to eat." When Huilian saw it, she scolded, "You are a thief. Take it with me as soon as possible, so I don't throw it all over the floor." Li An'er said, "Sister-in-law, just keep it. I'll take it back." "Dad, hit me again." Then he put it on the table. Huilian jumped down and picked up the wine, but then she fell down and was stopped by Yi Jiangking. Sister-in-law Ben bit her fingers while looking at Yi Jiangking. As he was sitting with him, he saw the parents of the fourth sister-in-law Ben coming and calling his mother. "Daddy is coming home from outside and wants to eat." the fourth sister-in-law Ben and Yi Jiangking came out. When I arrived at the head of Yitzhangkingmen, I saw Sister Ximen there, talking to Huixiang, the daughter-in-law who came to protect her. When she asked sister-in-law Ben where she was going, she said, "Someone came outside my door, begging for food. I'll come when I get home and have a look." I just said I'd like to come and have a look, eat his big daddy again, and sit with him for a while. Who knows? I was caught off guard. Huixiang said, "Dad was in the room just now." What did he say? Sister-in-law Bai just smiled and said, "I can't tell that his wife, who is a prosperous official, is also a spicy cabbage root, and is older than him." Dad paints white clothes on the ground. Whose daughter-in-law has this truth? Huixiang said, "This daughter-in-law is different from other daughters-in-law. Among the daughters-in-law who were taken from the father-in-law, who in this family is as big as him." It was said that Bai Huixiang had gone. Yi Jiangking said, "Fourth sister-in-law, come home as soon as you get home." Fourth sister-in-law Bai said, "What are you talking about? If I don't come, it will be a big mistake if I offend his eldest father." But Ximen King taught Sisao Bai and Yi Jiangking to sit with him during the day, and taught Yuxiao to sleep with him at night. He slowly persuaded him with words, saying, "Sister Song, you are smart. You can play a flower while you are still in your prime. When the flowers bloom for the first time, the master loves you, and it is the same fate. Now you are more than the superior, and more than the inferior. Guarding the master is better than guarding the slave. He is gone. It doesn't matter if you are worried. You can cry for a while, but it didn't cost you your life. As the saying goes, if you are a monk for one day and hit the clock, your chastity will not be your turn in the future." After hearing this, Huilian just cried and did not eat porridge or rice every day. Yuxia replied to Ximen King. Ximen King also asked Pan Jinlian to come and tell him personally, but he refused. Jinlian was annoyed and said to Ximen King, "A thief and a whore. He only wants his man." Jin Yi said that one night of husband and wife would last for 100 nights. And Wan Yi said that they would accompany each other for 100 steps. There is also a lingering intention. Such a chaste woman. But what can tie his heart? Ximen King said with a smile. Don't listen to what he said. If he had had a chastity heart, he would have only stayed with the cook Zhang Kong instead of marrying Wanger. He sat in front of him. In the hall, all the boys were called to the front for interrogation. When Lai Wanger was deported, who told him to come? If you bring it up as soon as possible, I won't beat him. Otherwise, if I find out, each person will receive 30 board. That is, we will leave our house with me. Suddenly a painting boy knelt down and said, "That day, I heard that Yuan came to my father's house with my father. In the passage, my sister-in-law asked him, and he walked away and said to her." Ximen King was furious after hearing this, and the sound made people look for Yuaner. When Pan Jinlian saw Ximen King paying attention to Song Huilian, she hatched a plan. He was instigating Sun Zui from behind, saying that Lai Wang's daughter-in-law said you wanted his man, and prepared a story for him. His father was angry, so he sent the man away. "The beating I gave you the day before yesterday was too much. He told me that he had taken off your head, face and clothes." Sun Zui heard this and was filled with joy. Zui lost her temper, walked forward, and said the same thing to Huilian. "Why did Sun Zui call you a slave of the Kai family? Why did you leave his house? Say your tears remain on your heels." I said it twice with hatred. One day, there is something to do. On April 18th, Li Zhao's birthday, Mother Li and Sister Li Gui from the hospital came to celebrate his birthday. Wu Yunyang left him to drink with all the guests in the back hall, while Ximen King went to a banquet with others and was not at home. After Song Huilian had eaten, she made a pretense at the back from the morning, walked into the house and slept until the end of the day. One by one, 2 maids were called from behind, but they didn't come out. Zui couldn't find the reason, so she came to his room and called him, saying, "My sister-in-law has become a jade beauty. Why is it so difficult to invite her?" Huilian ignored him and just slept with her face inward. Zui said again, "Sister-in-law, you think about your family's prosperous official. Think about it as soon as possible. He will not die without you, and he will still be at Ximen King's house." After hearing what he said, Huilian was moved by Pan Jinlian. For the said reason, he turned over and jumped up, looked at Zui and said, "You didn't come here to make a sound. So he went out because of me. Why did you come? I beat you so hard that you won't be able to come forward. If you don't speak out, everyone will just live with it. Why bother to take advantage of someone?" Zui was furious in her heart and cursed. "What a thief slave, a traitor and a whore. How can you dare to scold me?" Huilian said, "I am a slave whore, and you are a slave's mistress. It is better for me to raise a man and my master than for you to raise a slave. You steal my man behind my back, and you come and stir up trouble in your own house." These words, Zui became anxious when he said this, but Song Huilian didn't take precautions. He stepped forward and slapped her on the face, making her face turn red. He said, "How do you hit me?" Then he hit me head on, and the two of them started to grapple with each other. In panic, Lei Zhao's wife Yi Jiangqing came to try to persuade her, and pulled Zui back while the two of them cursed. Wu Yunyang came over and cursed. "You don't always have any rules. No matter who is in the house or not, the family will always rebel. Wait until your master comes back and see if I tell your master." At that moment Zui just went to the back. Yunyang saw that Huilian's hair was tangled and said, "Come and comb your hair quickly and come back." Huilian didn't answer a word. After sending Yunyang away, she walked into the room, opened the door upside down, and kept crying. After crying until it was time to hold the lamp, everyone was in chaos, and the guests in the back room were drinking. The poor woman couldn't bear it, so she found the leg straps, tied them to the door lintel, and hanged herself to death. She died at the age of 25. Exactly, the good things in the world are not firm, and the colorful clouds are easy to scatter and the glass is brittle. After falling behind, Yunyang sent Mother Li and Sister Gui out and passed Huilian's door. The door was closed and there was no movement. She was very suspicious. I sent Mother Li to get on the sedan chair, but when I came back I told him that the door wouldn't open, and I was all in a panic. They also made the boy jump in through the window, cut off his leg straps, took them off, and held him for half a day. After an unknown amount of time, he sadly died. But see, my limbs are cold and my energy is weak. The fragrant soul has gone to the Wangxiang terrace. The starry eyes are silent, and the corpse is still lying on the ground. I don't know where the essence has passed away, but it is suspected to be traveling in the clouds and autumn water. Seeing that she could not be saved, Yunyang panicked. He quickly sent the boy to Xinger and rode outside the door to invite Simon King to come home. Zui was afraid that Simon King would come to the house and pull out the tree to find its roots, and blame it on herself. She would spin the mill in the upper room and kneel with Yunyang, asking Simon to make a fuss with him. Seeing how frightened he was, Yunyang felt extremely upset because she said, "You are so scared now. We could have just said a few words." In the evening, Simon King, who was waiting for him, came home and only said hui. Liang cried for a whole day because she missed this man, and when the people behind her were in chaos, she committed suicide. Simon King said, "He is a clumsy woman, so he is not lucky." He sent a family member to hand over a paper to the county head Li Shixian. He only said that my wife invited guests to dinner because of my family, and he was in charge of the silverware. Because he lost a silver bell, he hanged himself to death for fear that the owner of the family might find out who was responsible. He also gave 30 taels of silver to the county magistrate. The county magistrate wanted to do some work, so he randomly sent a clerk to lead a few slaves to come and see it. I bought a coffin, asked for a red ticket, and sent it to Dezang Temple outside the door together with Bai Si and Lai Xinger. I gave the Huo family 5 coins to buy more firewood. Just when he was about to get angry and burn it down, Song Ren found out that he didn't want his father to sell coffins, so he came to stop him and called out to Ku Lai. He said that he did not understand the death of his daughter, and said that Simon King raped him. I refused to obey my daughter's chastity, and threatened her to death. I will also press the case and sue, who dares to burn the body. The Fire family all left in disorder, no matter what dared to burn. Bai Si and Lixing often stopped the coffin in the temple to talk to each other. Exactly, When the blue dragon and the white tiger walk together, good or bad things are not guaranteed at all.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.